Alone, a feeling of being left out is usual in our lives, especially in modern days where 34% adults always have loneliness at their core. While most see being alone as something negative, I see it as a blessing. And I'm not even trying to be optimistic here. I just love solitude, right? And I genuinely respect introverts because their relationships with people is much more honest and special. Simply, who have less people is more valuable, to me at least, because that way I know that I'm one of the two or I'm one of the three they have, unlike I'm one of the five. Now, I'll give you an example here. If I smile at 100 people, then I smile at you, would you feel anything valuable? Would you feel like you're valuable? No, right? Whereas if I always have frown upon my face and I never smile, really never smile, but whenever I see you, I smile up. And in that case, of course, you'd be very, you feel like you're someone special to me. Or you, of course, will feel like I value you and you're someone really important to me. Now, I was very lucky to have a huge group of friends throughout my school days, but I was left all alone in high school. And at first, I was pretty disheartened, right? Yet, as time went, I realized how it affected me in a positive way. I gained a better clarity on who I am without noise of others telling me who I am, and it's very true. You are always manipulated. You're always manipulated or influenced, as most suggest. They don't like the term manipulation because it's in their arrogance to accept they are getting manipulated. Anyway, influence it is. We all have heard this phrase once in our existence at least. Your network is your net worth. Or more used one is you become who you spend the most time with. Now these phrases are worldly accepted, right? Everyone accepts them, everyone's like, oh that's so true, right? But no one is willing to accept they are influenced. They want to think like, oh, my thoughts are very exclusive. They are, oh, I spend time on these thoughts. I am the one who originated this. But it's pretty much not the case, right? 95, if not 99% of your thoughts are shaped by surroundings of yours. So don't sit there, act like an ignorant kid, and be like, oh, my thoughts are very exclusive. I'm a golden egg, right? It's not the case here. Your way of thinking does take shape by blows of others' thinkings. Now, if you stay alone most of the time, you have more control over your thoughts. You are no more thinking about your friend's girlfriend or the news around your town. You finally have some peace in your life. And in this moment, you can choose right people to listen to. And I'd like to tell you my story, how I figured this out in my life so far. I personally isolated myself willingly, bought books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, How to Win Friends by Dale Carnegie, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and a few more. I started watching Iman Gadzhi, Andrew Tate, and a few more podcasts. Also, I started watching and listening to some philosophical works by Friedrich Nietzsche or Alan Watts, right? Now, I did this with intentions of getting influenced the right way. I had control over whose thoughts will I let in my head now. Then, most of my days, I was thinking about their thoughts. Not just that, I experimented getting back with friends or dating beautiful chicks, like the ones people be like, oh, she's an 8, she's a 9. I mean, I was pretty lucky, but yes, I got to. Anyway, I did that experiment just to find out what pushes me most toward my ambitions. And no, it wasn't smiles with friends or laughs or quality time with girlfriend. It was my own desire to break free. It was my own drive to win big. I realized in those times I'm not so normal. I'm very certain most of you feel the same way, or you wouldn't have clicked on this video. And whenever I stayed alone without any notification on my screens, I found myself more productive, more happy, more peaceful. I mean, yes, yet it can get really awful sometimes looking at your screen just to find out you got no messages. But is it so bad, or is it worth calling life unfair? Perhaps you're getting saved from all the disappointments and heartbreaks. I guess not. Now, this is an artistic way, like most of the philosophers, authors, or poets spend most of their time alone walking in hills or wandering in the flowers beside the lake, just to gain further clarity around their ideas. Nearer you are to others, the farther you go from yourself. And the opposite is true as well. You make distance with others and you gain sense of yourself. Now, life doesn't stop when you lose someone very significant to you. Either it can be your parents, either it can be your spouse, and to some people it can be even their pet dog or cat. And life generally starts to fall apart when you lose the sense of yourself. Then you can't understand what do you want, and when you can't even answer the question, who am I? Right? Another good thing about being alone is you can always stay accountable because simply you don't have anyone to blame. Moreover, when you try something that seems to be impossible, you do not have that fear of being judged by others. Now, studies suggest that 1 in every 20 people is too scared to even start something big that they never get a chance to do. That fear of being judged by others holds most people back. And that is actually a good thing about being alone, that we simply have no one to judge you. I personally started my YouTube journey in 2020 where I posted videos about gaming. I used to play video games a lot back in the day, and I posted around 300 videos in total, and I got, to sum them all up, I would say around like 20,000 views or something like that. And not to mention, I've tried a lot of businesses, a lot of different business models, and I have monumentally failed in most of them. And that is no secret from anyone. Now, if I would just pile up all the failures that I've had, I would have failed more than dozens of times. And you know what? Nobody laughed at me. Seriously, nobody laughed at me. Nobody pointed at me and be like, you are a failure. No one did. I mean, yeah, sure, my family was there to suggest me to go to the college or just take a job because they were too afraid that I was throwing my life away, which I wasn't. Now, even though I have a lot of people in contact, some of the very faithful friends and enjoyable companies, I still prefer to stay alone in my room most of the time of day, working on my craft. When you find harmony within yourself, you stop looking in other people's. This doesn't just help you become a better man, but it also strengthens the bond of you and your family and your friends, or it can be a spouse, again. Now, I always wanted someone to talk to every minute of the day, and if I had none of them, I would feel like dying. In that time, I suffered through many relations, and I had a very bad impression on almost everyone because in myself I had no harmony. I always was looking for more than I already had, just to ignore the voices I had in my head. Now, here I will get a little spiritual, so this might not be the part for everyone, but if you're someone who has a belief in spirituality like I do, this will be a pretty good part for you. Always think in this way, like either you can listen to other people or you can listen to the God. Like you can listen to only one voice at a time. Now, if you go on to ask everyone, God wouldn't respond to you. He'd be like, okay, go on, ask another mortal, go on, maybe you can find the answer. Just because you're too arrogant to accept that the God is there to help you out every time you need his help, right? So I always do this practice. I'm like, if I have a question, I'll just sit back, relax, not be stressed, not be anxious, not be thinking about it, and have faith in me. Like, God will come and help me out. And it's not like God will come in physical form. He might come in form of an idea, he might come in form of an accident, like somehow your friend walks in and he starts yapping around the solution you've been looking for months. And this happens to me all the time. Whenever I'm very curious about something or very stressed about certain questions in my life, I just sit back with faith and let the God do the rest. And in this part, I would like to say the advantage of being in business alone, and I will also outline the disadvantage because we are being realistic here. This is not your therapy session. Yeah, when you are alone in business, you seem to suffer with certain skills that you don't have, and that void can be filled with someone who has that skill, right? He has that skill. I'll give you an example. You're trying to start a dropshipping store. You know how to pick up a winning product, you know how to build a store, you know how to, promote it, but you don't know how to write converting copies. Even if you use ChatGPT, you are not sure of it. You are pretty skeptical around it. Now you need someone who knows how to write copies, who has the skill of copywriting. So you can go on a Facebook group or a forum on a Discord server, or even if you have someone in contact who might be kind of a tech enthusiast or business enthusiast, it can be anyone. You can go on, message them and be like, hey, do you possess the skill of copywriting? And if they do, they go like, yes, I do. So that void can be filled. But at the same time, it's a disadvantage that you don't have the skill. Now this void can be filled in another way, that you can learn copywriting, because that's what I did. To be honest, I learned a lot of skills. In a month I took like 5 or 6 courses, and it was pretty harsh month for me because all I did was learning. There was no result, and it can be really demotivating when you see no results. And that's what happened to me in that time. But anyway, I survived. Most of us survive. Yeah, so now I'll go on to say the advantage of being alone in business. There are 2 advantages. Firstly, there's nobody, like no interests conflict, no arguments, no egos conflicting, nothing like that. You are the only guy in the business. So there's nothing like, okay, this might work, this might not work, okay, you are stupid, I'm not stupid. Nothing like that. It's just you who is to blame, who is to be proud, who is to be happy, who is to be sad, who is to be suffering, who is to be, thriving, whatever it might be. And the second benefit of this is that all the profit you make through your business is truly yours. It doesn't have to be splitted, right? So there are 2 advantages to this, and there's one disadvantage that has come to my concern so far of being alone in a business. Now concluding with, just because you are alone doesn't mean you are weak. It's quite the opposite. Walking alone requires the strongest wills. If you can walk in any place alone, you are a strong man. Now the modern people will tell you, you need to be obsessed with other people. You need to be dependent on them. And it doesn't have to be that way. Seriously, it doesn't have to. Only person you need to be obsessed with is yourself. You need to be obsessed with how much success you have. You need to be obsessed with how good you look. You need to be obsessed with how much wisdom you have. Everything. Seriously. If not yourself, then who? Simple like that. So you need to be obsessed truly with yourself. Nobody else. No one else is to blame. No one else is to be proud of. Only yourself. Now you don't need someone to be dependent on. You don't need someone to be obsessing on. You have yourself. And I'm telling you, most of the leaders in our world that have ever lived were self-obsessed. That's why they grew. And I said this thing before too. It takes a word of narcissist to be a noble soul. So always remember, whenever someone says you are being self-obsessed, don't let your head down. It's a very good thing you can be, because if not yourself, then who? Simple like that. You need to be obsessed with yourself to keep yourself accountable, to keep yourself in shape, to keep yourself on a right path. Because if you're not, you'd go out, get involved in bad habits like drugs, smoke, or whatever it might be, get obese, don't care about what you get inside your head. That what happens. I've talked to a lot of self-obsessed people, and I've never met one who is very toxic. Like, all they do is think about themselves in a positive way. They're like, how can I learn more? How can I earn more? How can I spend more time with the right people and give them a quality time? They're always like, okay, if I'm spending time with these people, how can I make them feel more special so they can remember me in a later time? I mean, they're doing very selfishly, but they're doing good. Exactly like when you do some charity work, you do good out to the world, but you do it because you feel good, right? That's what it's supposed to be like. Anyway, I would like to wrap this video up with a saying of mine, which goes like, I'd rather be paranoid thinking everyone is trying to attack me than to think everyone is trying to help me.